Welcome to the Album Nerds Podcast with your hosts, Don and Dude.
Toga. That's college, right? This is the Album Nerds Podcast. I'm Dude. I got Don with me.
Never went to a toga party.
You never went to a toga party?
Did you have those?
They had them, but I wasn't invited. I was not a fraternity dude. So, Don, you ready to get into our dorm days?
Yes, but I'm late for class.
I attended class that I just about stayed the whole time, too.
This is the Album Nerds Podcast. We love albums, the album format, talking about them, and looking back on things we loved, looking forward to things we haven't even listened to yet. But we have a great show for you this week. We'll be discussing 2 handpicked albums, one each from our dorm room days, albums we tried to convince our friends to listen to and love. And then, of course, Don will be asking us a deep question. And then we'll have some shout-outs to some other albums and album-related items we're digging at the end of the show. And then we will reveal our very special episode coming up next time. But this week, it's all about them dorm days.
That's what I'm talking about!
Dorm Room Days celebrates how those tiny college living spaces became hubs of music discovery. Today, each of us brings an album that we either pushed on others or that they introduced to us. It's about exploring new sounds and how dorm life turned music into a shared experience. These are our Dorm Room Days.
Dorm room days, they won't pass you by. No.
I was going to do the Wang Chung one. In a dorm room days.
Dance all day.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I always forget that's Wang Chung.
Yes.
So to be clear, though, this was in the 90s for us.
Yes.
So dorm room experiences are probably different today. They're just sharing the TikToks and not making eye contact. And that's fine. It's cool. People evolve. But there was many over the years. Even in high school, I remember in detention, this kid JD was the first person I ever saw have Pearl Jam 10, and he had it on cassette and was talking about it, and that's how I first heard about Pearl Jam. So some of the albums I thought about for this, Jeff Buckley's Grace, which we talked about on the show. A friend of mine in college, I was going to commuter school at first, so I didn't have a dorm room, but we're driving in my car, and he introduced me to Jeff Buckley, and I was a little hesitant at first, but went to a show and saw him and was in. So that took. So that one was suggested to me, and then, of course, I tried to pass that on. But the one I thought of, Velvet Crush, Teenage Symphonies to God, from 94, I believe. Go check that one out. It's kind of, it's power pop. It's Beatley and Beach Boy-y, and definitely the title of that is a Brian Wilson reference. So it's a very interesting record by this band from Rhode Island, and I suggest trying it out. What about you, Don?
Well, I, of course, was trying to turn people on to The Cure and the Smiths. But that's actually, when I first got to college, I was introduced to Pink Floyd, particularly, the early psychedelic stuff. And it's kind of captured, my sort of experimental times.
You can say it.
I don't know. Still weird about it. But yeah, certainly like The Dark Side of the Moon, was, one people turned me on to, and, I fell in love with it. Of course, we've talked about that. And then also the Beatles, who, of course, I was familiar with, but began to see the appeal and the magic. I think Abbey Road was the first one, I really fell in love with. But
yeah, I grew up on the Beatles, so it was all through high school and college. I was the Beatle freak, trying to get people to listen to all their albums. So I hear you.
I was more of a John Denver household.
All right. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I'm sure people still have similar experiences sharing the music that they love and want their friends to hear. So the picks are in, the jewel cases are cracked. That's what they called the things the CDs are held in, by the way. And the ramen is boiling. Let's get to our cha-cha-cha choices.
Like the best album of all time.
You choose me?
Well, one album that I tried to, turn my friends onto comes from Morrissey, the former lead singer of the Smiths.
More like Morrissey.
Yeah, that's what I was up against.
I've been making that joke for a long time, and I'm sure you heard it before me.
So the album Vauxhall and I was released in 1994, which was the year that I entered college for the first time. So Morrissey was born Stephen Patrick Morrissey in Lancashire, England. He's kind of known for wit and sort of romantic melancholy, for, I guess, being sort of mopey and whiny.
Yeah, seemed like the kind of guy that would do the they love me not thing with flower petals.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. So this is his fourth solo album and his second collaboration with Alan White and Boz Borer, who are longtime writing partners.
Borer, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's. I don't think it's Borer. So this was also produced by Steve Lillywhite, who you might remember from the early U2 records. But anyway, here's the opening cut. Now my heart is full.
Tell all of my friends I don't have too many.
I can see the kid in your eyes, man. Like you still delight in this.
I do, yes. So, it's, to me, I find it to be a strong opener. Kind of opens quietly with just some, little guitar chimes, and his voice picks up in the middle. Lots of literary references in there. So a lot of he mentions the names Dowlow, Spicer, Pinky, Cubit. Those are references to Graham Greene's Brighton Rock, which, of course, I had no clue what that was at the time. But I knew it was from a book. But it's like a literary crime drama, which I think ties to the theme of the song. Seems like he's coming out of a troubled home, dysfunctional. Some fun lines in there. I think the appeal of Morrissey, at least to people like me, are some of the interesting phrasing and clever lyrics, reference to loafing oafs and all night chemists. And anyway,
yeah, he's getting the dreamy eyes. It's like you're laying on your bed with your hands under your chin, just grinning, listening to Morrissey. So the album title, the Vauxhall thing, that's a place?
Yes. Apparently, in the 90s anyway, kind of a hot spot for gay culture, or nightlife, and but I think it's kind of like a riverside part of town.
Well, and Morrissey himself is like a humanist or something, right? Like he doesn't have he's asexual or something.
Yeah, that's what he used to say. I think at this time he might have even still been saying that he was celibate. I don't know. I mean, I've read memoirs and stuff. He's an interesting character, but it's hard to pin him down to one thing. Yeah.
So is this like a grief album? Because that's kind of what I was reading, and this song kind of opens it it's emotional, but it's sort of like sadness or grief disguised as fullness. It's like, I don't know. It's hard to describe.
That's what a lot of people say. So the previous album, Your Arsenal, was produced by Mick Ronson, Bowie's guitarist and producer. He died not long after that album came out, and I think Morrissey was fairly close with him. And I think there were other people in his life that passed around that time. So a lot of people call this kind of a grief record.
But yeah, it does set an emotional tone for it. And I did go listen to that previous album, and I liked it better than this. Just spoiler alert, just because it had some more rock elements, a little balance to his emotional gravitas. Mm-hmm. Remember when people on their windows had shears, like those curtains that were see-through kind of, and they would like blow in the wind? Mm-hmm. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, this is pretty much the same band that was on that previous album, but it might be the influence of Steve Lillywhite.
Yeah,
I guess he had said that he wanted, Morrissey to have more of like a lush background, a more maybe dreamy or, pretty, background.
Billowing shears. Yeah, I already said that.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, let's move on to another cut. This is Why Don't You Find Out For Yourself?
Why don't you find out for yourself? Then you'll see the glass hidden in the grass.
Gotta watch out for that grass. The lunatic is in the grass. That's a Pink Floyd reference that I made, not Don.
Good. So why don't you find out for yourself? Was co-written with guitarist Alan White. This one's a little more acoustic sounding, little more folky. It seems to be about life in the music business, or I guess any kind of business. People that are presenting themselves as having your best interest at heart, and that are really there to siphon all your dough, as he says.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of the better songs on the album. I like the stripped down acoustic leaning, whisper closed vocal, like that works. It's when it gets all foofy and doesn't have any grounding, like I don't hear any heavy bass or anything anywhere to anchor his soaring vibes. But this one, because it's so intimate, it works. It feels like Morrissey kind of giving advice to someone about the music industry and how they'll chew you up, they'll stab you in the back, they'll tell you one thing but then do the other because they just want the money. They don't really care about you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was probably more of a frustration when he was in the Smiths in a band where he's not the only one making decisions.
Yeah. You're always kind of wondering, who these songs are about. It's almost like Taylor Swift, So was there a song you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, the only one I think I ever heard before meeting you and you dragging me to a Morrissey show. This one is The More You Ignore Me, The Closer I Get.
The more you ignore me, the closer I get. You're wasting your time.
I dig that one. It has a little bit more of a Britpop sound, the Laws kind of a vibe. I would have liked more of that, where it sounds more like kind of British alternative rock, a little bit.
And it has that big riff, the
And this was his only charting song, is that correct?
It's in the U.S. That could be
right.
That could be the case.
Right. Yes. Let's assume U.S. here. If I say that no one heard it. Yeah, I mean, it's a stalker anthem, right?
Yeah, kind of seems to be sort of like the every breath you take kind of thing.
Yeah. The title is creepy, but it's clever and funny at the same time. Because it does, maybe it's the vibe of the song itself, but it feels harmless, maybe like childhood crush type vibes, as opposed to I'm hiding in your armoire. That's probably something British people have, right?
So this one was co-written by Boz Borer.
The more that you bore me.
I think it's a fun song, even though it's maybe, depending on how you want to interpret it. I mean, it's kind of dark, which is kind of typical of Morrissey. And, with him, you never know if he's being tongue-in-cheek or, I mean, he's often really melodramatic and overly dramatic. So, I don't know. It's, I think for the most part, I would say it's kind of a fun song.
Is that the draw, though? His mysteriousness? Is that part of what makes him interesting to you and his other fans?
Yes. I mean, everything about him was, is he gay? Is he not? He's a vegetarian? Is he, I don't know. It's just a puzzling character.
Man of mystery. International man of mystery.
He's part Elvis. He's part
Frank Sinatra.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, he's just an enigmatic character, I think. And some people, see it as an act, and I think a lot of it is. I think he's playing up an image, but I just find him. I've always found him, to be kind of fascinating.
I find his fans fascinating because I don't quite get it. I'm still trying to figure it out.
The more you ignore him,
there you go.
All right. Well, we arrive at the final cut of the album. It's called Speedway.
I never said that they were completely unfound.
So Speedway was written with Alan White. It's actually, I think it's my favorite Morrissey song ever. If I had made you a mixtape in this era, it probably would have closed it.
It would have misrepresented the album to me. I would have liked more of this, like 2 more songs, a little closer to this and vibe.
Yeah, it's interesting. The guitars, actually throughout this album, it's, unlike the Smiths that was, very jangly, a lot going on. There's a lot of like long sustained notes and I don't know if there's EBO or whatever you call that. So a lot of and feedback.
Was there chainsaw on there? I read there was chainsaw.
Yeah, I always thought it was it sounded like a jackhammer or something to me. I'm not really sure. That just right at the beginning. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Morrissey is often, a victim, I would say, of people. The big refrain, is all the rumors keeping me grounded. I never said they were completely unfounded. Again, you wonder what he could be talking about, specifically. It's kind of like an anthem or something. But my favorite part of it is just how it ends. It really builds. There's a crescendo. The intensity, really picks up at the end. And then it just ends with, I guess they're toms, but they're played really hard. Definitely like the loudest drumming on the record is on this track.
Yeah, it's the most rock, I think, track on the album.
For sure.
It's a good way to close. Kind of leaves you with, I guess, kind of a reminder of who else he is musically.
Yeah, I'll buy that. All right, well, it's time to rewind and reflect on Vauxhall and I. I'll begin with my clickbait headline. Many continue to ignore him, but those who let him in are rewarded with a strange, lush, thoughtful experience. Morrissey's solo career had been uneven up to this point. There were, some really, great songs in there, but I feel like this is maybe the best place for him. I kind of like this kind of dreamy sounding stuff. And I think when he gets rocky, I think it does work, but sometimes it just feels a little bit forced.
Well, he is from a rock band.
Yes, he is.
So.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think he deliberately wanted to show he could rock. I think sort of this sad crooner thing is better.
All right, so my clickbait headline to describe the album: sadness never sounded so polished, but does it ever wake up? Maz perfects melancholy. Maz is a nickname you people call him, right?
Yes, people do.
Okay. Maz perfects melancholy at the risk of putting you to sleep.
It is a good late night record, if you are going out. I don't know how many times I probably fell asleep listening to this.
Spot of tea and...
Yeah.
It feels deliberately restrained, right?
Yes.
It's not trying to grab you. It's like a London fog. It just kind of sits there on top of you and you're trying to find your way through it.
Yeah, it's subtle.
Yeah. The emotional palette's subtle. There's resignation and reflection, aging and loneliness, but not anger, not like the flashy emotions, the sort of muted emotions. If it is a grief record, it's not depressing. Well done if that was the intention.
All right. Well, killer to filler. Of course, I love them all. I do think probably the first half of the record is a little bit better. I like Spring Heel Jim, which is the second track about, some character that's, kind of living life, very, very fast. Has weird samples from a documentary film from 1959. It's sort of a weird sort of sound collage, but I like that a lot. Billy Budd. Maybe the second most rockin' track. I think it's a reference to Herman Melville's Billy Budd. Supposedly that book was about a homosexual experience.
Okay.
Any other tracks you liked?
Yeah, Hold On to Your Friends is felt a little more sincere.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a trite message, the idea of friendship is important. But I think when it comes from Morrissey, I think it's him maybe saying it to himself, because I do think he is somebody that struggles with relationships, and
right.
He just had the falling, the falling out of the Smiths, so it feels kind of sincere to me. Yeah. What do you think of the track "Lifeguard Sleeping Girl Drowning"? Do you recall that one? Is
that the one with the clarinet?
Yes. Yeah, I think Bosborer is playing the clarinet on that.
Yeah, it's sort of falsetto-y and androgynous, kind of.
Always looking for attention.
Yeah, it was weird, but sort of more. I think this one is more that sort of Sinatra feeling, except Sinatra didn't ever do whispered falsetto to my knowledge, but this is more of like a creepy crooner.
Yeah, he's definitely, he's not Sinatra, but he definitely uses his voice as an instrument, and he just enunciates the hell out of words.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Lazy Sunbathers was kind of weird to me, but
yeah, I mean it's a fun track, I guess, sort of about people ignoring all that's going on in the world, who are just can't be bothered by war and suffering.
Lucky them, right?
Yeah. There's other B-sides from that period, I think, that might have been a better fit, but I don't know. It's maybe the one song that doesn't feel as personal.
Yeah, maybe that's why it didn't quite land for me.
All right, production. What'd you think of the production?
I mean, the arrangements are tight and layered, and it's very controlled, but of course it's very vocal forward and clean. I mean, he's the star of the show here. The dynamics are very limited, though. There's no like spikes, no distortion, no chaotic moments, really. No holy shit sections. There's no surprises. It's just all pretty muted, but it's warm, and it doesn't sound like 1994.
I agree with that.
So I think that's important. It has a timeless quality where it could be made today or 20 years before 94 and existed.
Yeah. Yeah, the vocals are definitely in the forefront. And unlike the Smiths, where you had, a great guitarist sort of competing for attention with Morrissey, this is all about presenting Morrissey. And, for some, that's, a nice thing. And for others, it's not. Replay value.
I mean, I'm not a Morrissey person, so until that switch gets flipped, probably not very often. If I happened upon a Morrissey record at the record store, old vinyl for a low price, I'd probably pick it up and listen. But I think it's the best entry point for a Morrissey skeptic.
Yeah, for you, I think it would be Your Arsenal. I think that album is probably if I were to convert you, I would probably start with the Smiths. Yes,
that would probably be the better choice. And don't start with Me Just Murder, because the first time I heard that song, I thought it was a metaphor. I didn't know it was like literal. Anyway, but I know that this influenced Radiohead and bands like that for sure. I mean, some of what Morrissey does, Tom York does.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So. Yeah. And so, I mean, there is the legacy there, right? It's, influencing, I think, a lot of that Britpop that was, really coming on at this time.
The Manchester stuff.
Yes.
I'm sure the Smiths' influence was there for all of that stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Morrissey, at least for that moment, found his stride as a solo artist on Vauxhall and I with a thoughtful, unhurried, and unique alternative mid-90s gem. Why don't you find out for yourself?
Excuse me, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
It's time again for Deep Questions by Dom, Dorm Room Edition. So, we're talking about, things I guess we liked, hearing in our dorm. Was there something you were hearing in those days that annoyed you?
I heard a lot that annoyed me. Yeah, so dorm days were complicated for me because I'd been at a commuter college before that and then changed areas and transferred to a university. And so being in a dorm, I was a little older, already set in my musical ways. So people were trying to push stuff on me that I just wasn't having. Like, I hated Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. I couldn't. Everyone was playing it. You got to hear this. She's, the female Kurt Cobain, like that kind of stuff. And I just didn't want to engage.
Yes.
I came around on this podcast. I finally listened to the whole thing we talked about on our show a while back, and I love that album, and I wish I had been more open. Yeah. So that's the downside of the dorm days. You're so focused on your own little thing, opening yourself up to other stuff. Nope, it sucks. It sucks. Like I was so closed off, and I regret that about my dorm days.
Me too. Probably by when I came back for my second year of college, it was kind of the beginning of the Dave Matthews thing.
Around the same time.
Yep. And I never really disliked the music, but it was just people were so in love with it and just pushing it so hard. I think that it was it turned me off. And it turned me off for many years. Even today, I still, sort of roll my eyes when people talk about Dave.
Yeah, when I heard it for the first time, it sounded like something my parents would like, and I think that's why I rejected it. It sounded like, to me, it had no teeth. It sounded like adult contemporary, PBS music, like Austin City Limits or something.
I had friends that were, Fish heads, and I kind of appreciated Fish from a distance, and this felt like a more watered down version of like some of that jam band music. Yeah. And I don't know, but I think if I really spent time with a Dave Matthews record, I could probably appreciate it.
Looking back on it now, it kind of actually was more like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band with jam stuff. True. You got the saxophones and the a million people in the band and charismatic, writhing frontman. You know, it's not the music's not the same, but
No, that's a
the
good point.
vibes are there.
I think we have to force ourselves to do a Dave Matthews episode.
All right. Well, somehow I don't know if we can do a whole episode, but
All right. Well, what annoyed you from your college days? Let us know on our social media like Instagram and Facebook at Album Nerds.
okay. So here it is. It's Blind Melon time and their 1995 album Soup. Blind Melon, an American alternative rock band formed in LA in 1990. Known for, that blend of psychedelic rock, folk, blues, little grunge in there. Classic lineup: vocalist Shannon Hoon, guitarists Rogers Stevens and Christopher Thorne, bassist Brad Smith, and drummer Glenn Graham. Their sound in their early 90s was melodic and roots influenced, more so than some of the other grunge bands at the time, and they were thrown in that bucket because they had long hair. The 1992 self-titled debut featured No Rain, which, of course, the B-girl, their salvation and their demise all in one. But they had a lot of troubles with substance abuse, Shannon Hoon in particular. And so they were kind of haunted by that under the surface. The album, Soup, was their second studio album, released August 15th via Capitol Records. Apparently they had the July 4th release date, but Capitol had recently signed the Foo Fighters, and Dave Grohl wanted the July 4th release date, so Soup got pushed to August. Already disregarded before it even came out. The album received mixed reviews critically. Rolling Stone gave it 1.5 stars and basically said, without the bee suit, they're nothing, which caused some trouble and exacerbated, I think, some abuse of things, taking that too seriously. Yeah, promotion of the album was cut short following Shannon Hoon's death from a drug overdose just 2 months after the release of the album, and that really killed any momentum it could have had and impacted its trajectory. And I stopped talking about it to anyone because it just made me sad.
Oh.
So why don't we, on that note, open it up with the first song on the album? It's called Hello, Goodbye / Galaxy. It's really just Galaxy with a cool intro. So the Hello Goodbye section at the beginning is like a New Orleans brass band intro, and Hoon singing in some, vaudevillian type vibe. I'm entering a frame bombarded by indecision where a man like me can easily let the day get out of control. Down this far in the quarter, it was recorded in New Orleans, the whole album was. And I think that whole party vibe of New Orleans probably was not a good place for these guys to be.
Yeah, I expected it to be a Beatles cover. And it wasn't there initially, I don't know if it was on the vinyl or on the CD, was there another hidden track at the beginning?
Yeah, so it was weird. And this was, a lot of people didn't know about. This was my opening sales pitch when I tried to make people listen to this. So if you put the CD in and hit rewind, it would go back behind track 1. So if you just hit play, it would just start with the Hello Goodbye, and then Galaxy, the part I played was from the Galaxy portion. And I don't really know what it's called, but there's a 2-minute hidden song with some backmasking of another track from the album, and I'll just play a little bit of that right now. Not really anything standalone, but cool. Interesting that it existed, but just, that it was truly hidden. It wasn't at the end after some space. Like you had to go in front. It was -2 minutes or whatever when you were listening to it.
It would have been fun back in the mixtape days when you'd have like a minute left of tape or something, or 2 minutes, and you'd do little hidden tracks like this or something short that could fill out the playlist. I
used to take bits from movies and comedy things and stuff and throw them in. I had a VCR hooked up to my cassette deck, so I'd record audio stuff. I went way too much work. Anyway, the song Galaxy.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Kind of about his 1963 Ford Galaxy.
Why did he have a 1963 Ford Galaxy in 1994?
It's a classic car that he wanted. And there's somewhat about, like, I'd rather be in my Galaxy than in the Cadillac, like being the... I want to be the artist, not the music mogul rich guy. Like, I'm not a sellout. I think that was part of it. A very catchy song.
I would have liked it better if it was an AMC Pacer or something.
Yeah, there you go. Or a Gremlin. It's kind of a breakup song. You know, the lyrics on this album are intangible in many ways. They're just poetic,
surreal
thoughts, you know.
Abstract.
And maybe it's the pressure of the fame from No Rain and all of that stuff that drove some of that. That was the struggle with this record for me, because I not only was trying to get my friends to listen to it and get into Blind Melon, because I loved that first album so much. I was trying to convince myself, because it's so different.
Yeah.
And so disjointed, but beautiful and interesting at the same time.
There's so much time in between the two albums, right? I mean, because it took
3 years.
Okay. Well, that's not as bad as I thought. I like this track a lot. I mean, I think Galaxy, I guess you would have had to edit it or something, but it feels like it could have been a single.
I think it needed a little more of a narrative thread for people to grab onto, because it just like, is it about a car? I mean, what's happening here? It's a cool sounding song though, for sure.
Was the idea that he'd rather be just sitting in his car or something?
Yeah. Like all of this fame and whatever isn't me, or it also could have had something to do with the drug problems. That isn't really me. I'd rather, just be home and be myself. There's like, that's the struggle and the beauty of this record.
Yeah. Because
it's like, what the hell's going on? All right, let's go to a track that is a little clearer about what it's about. It's called St. Andrew's Fall. So this one was written after the band allegedly witnessed a woman commit suicide by jumping off a building in Detroit while they were on tour. Now, I had really liked the demo of this because I had some like CD bootleg European blah, blah, blahs, like we used to have to do in the 90s. And it was more acoustic, and this is much bigger sounding. But it starts mellow and upbeat. Then it kind of gets into like, I want to see what you see and understand like how, like what's his view from 20 stories above. And then the music gets really chaotic. I think that signifies the fall, the drop to the ground. It's structurally ambitious, and once you know what it's about, it's pretty hard to listen to. It's painful. What do you think about this one?
I think it's one of the more powerful songs on the album. So is this is something they actually witnessed, right?
That's the story, yes. That always was the story, even back then, not just in years subsequent. But that acoustic breakdown in there, I can tell you how many ways that I am. Like, that's my favorite part. That's my favorite Blind Melon. That's my favorite Shannon Hoon. That part of what they do.
Seems like every song has a lot of parts because, we're trying to identify clips to play. Like on every song, it's kind of difficult to decide which part to play.
What did you take from that line? So if I see you walking hand in hand with a 3-armed man, I'll understand. I should have been in my shoes yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what this album is whether you either have to embrace that or reject it, because if you try and figure out what it really means, I don't think you're going to get there. I think this is more like a Andy Warhol painting.
Yeah. Which I think I would have probably appreciated that kind of thing at the time.
I enjoyed the challenge at that age. Now it's a little more exhausting.
Yeah. But there's certainly both musically and lyrically, there's a lot of psychedelic elements, I would say.
Yeah, this album is much more ambitious and in many ways it's more beautiful than the first album in terms of a piece of art. But the first album is more of songs, relatable rock songs with folky touches. But this is more of a statement piece. They were intentionally not trying to have a hit. They hated having a hit. What song jumped out at you? Oh, no pun intended on the 20 stories below there.
Another song I thought was kind of moving was Toes Across the Floor. Love
that guitar part.
Yeah. It's it's always just like a bit off balance, like when you sink into a song, you're like, oh, I'm liking this. And then they throw sort of a curveball at you, but then they come back with, a little riff like that. That's, I wouldn't say it's a difficult record, but it is
challenging.
Yes. Yeah. Which I like, I think there should be a certain element of challenge. But I think the lyrics are somewhat ambiguous, although, it just, I don't know, just the banality of life, maybe depression.
Overstimulation, anxiety.
Yeah.
It's just internal unrest. This is not, Shannon's the primary lyricist, and he's lost.
Yeah.
And sad and mad at himself, and it all comes through, but in splashes, and then there's a happy line, and then there's a sad line, and
yeah, I mean, this is way more depressing than Morrissey, because like with Morrissey, I just always sort of dismiss it as melodrama. He's just being super dramatic about something, but this, well, I guess it's also because we know how this ends.
Yeah.
But it just makes it kind of chilling.
That summer when I got this, the sound of it, like, there were songs I really liked right at first, and others I had to grow into, and I liked the challenge, and I liked, maybe where was this going to go? Is this like a new direction for alternative rock? Or they were doing their own thing. But then because of the sort of the darkness under it, when he died a couple months later, that's all it was to me, was like a tombstone. And it took a long time before I wanted to listen to it again.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is, at the very least, it's interesting.
Yeah, and in the context of the songs around it, and we'll talk about Skinned probably a little bit later, but there were some really weird moments on the album, banjo and kazoo, and then a song like this comes in, which is a little more in the pocket and groovier, and yeah, it's quite a journey.
Yes,
it's psychedelic in a different way. It's a different kind of psychedelia throughout this record, but it certainly exists. All right, so we close out the album with the song Lemonade. So I love this. Like Kermit Ruffins and the Little Rascals Brass Band provided the horns and the New Orleans kind of vibes, especially towards the end of the song. But yeah, the lyrics are like a play-by-play of his time, of Shannon's time in New Orleans. He got in a bar fight, he got arrested, and too much lemonade, I think, meaning everything.
Yeah.
Too much of everything. But it's almost fun sounding.
Yeah, feels like a party.
Like a good rocker, and then if you start really listening, it's like when he's like, hello, Mr. Uppercut, oh, how nice to have avoided you. Like, because he did get punched.
Yes.
I think Shannon's playful side comes through a little bit more lyrically, the way that he phrases things here. Just clever. Mm-hmm. That's a great line.
Yeah,
and this album is littered with those moments, and that's part of the fun. Mm-hmm. Within the lights in the darkness, I suppose.
Yeah, this is a fitting end to the album, I think.
And if you ever see it, like there was I think it was on Much Music or something in Canada, they did a mini concert thing. I think you could probably find it on YouTube. This live, I mean, they were playing really tight on that particular gig, and it's a great performance. And you can really see who Shannon is as a performer on it too. So I recommend checking that out.
I had friends with Satellite who had Much Music.
Yeah, that was Canadian MTV folks, pretty much. All right, why don't we rewind and reflect on this steaming bowl of soup? My clickbait headline to describe Soup: they burned the bee costume and refused to stay the band everyone thought they were. Soup is the sound of that decision. Chaotic, dark, eclectic, ambitious, messy. It sprawls and pivots, daring the listener to follow. It mirrors the band's collapse at the same time as trying to build something new. It's a balancing act.
I'll give you my clickbait headline. Blind melons stir up sour thoughts and strange flavors on Soup.
Chef's kiss.
It is a departure from the first album, and I mean, I like that they went in this direction. I like that they were challenging themselves or challenging people's expectations.
Yeah, I think that was a lot of it.
But yeah, it's perhaps with the help of a very persuasive producer or something, they could have squeezed in a hit single or something to engage people.
They were so happy with it, and they were so convinced that critics and fans would be proud of them taking risks and not trying to do this and make B-Girl 2.
Yeah.
And that's youthful exuberance and belief in your own creative stuff. And that's, I wish Shannon hadn't died. If he hadn't, the legacy of this album might be different. They would have gotten a tour on it. Maybe something would have popped. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it seems in hindsight, and we'll talk about the legacy, but in hindsight, it seems like people appreciate it now, and it is seen as a big artistic statement. Yeah.
Killer to filler. Tough, because it's more like it's a soup.
Yes.
And, 2x4 is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. Shannon's account of being in drug detox, but it's heavy. It's a much heavier, pummeling song. The lead guitar breaks in the middle. There's feedback, and it's just a little heavier hitting. And there's some interesting lyrics, of course, as always. What about you? You got a killer?
Yeah, well, I like the banjo kazoo one, the skinned. That's fun, and his voice really works with that. Like I could see them doing like a bluegrass album, and I think his voice would really would really work for it.
Well, there's a Neil Youngishness to it, I think.
Yeah.
I liked Vernie.
Yes.
About his grandma. It's uncomplicated, and it kind of has these two tones to it. That breakdown at the later in the song where he's like singing about the jar of pickles never opened since 1983 in her cupboards, and just like memories of his grandma and how he wishes he could be more like Vernie, and maybe that's his own being lost and all that, struggling with who am I, and I wish I could be more like this sweet lady, Walk is nice. Again, it's about trying to get clean, but it's simple and a little bit more like Change from the debut album, so I think that's why I connected with it a little more straightforward. Yeah. Got any other killers on here?
Yeah, I mean, I like so many. I like New Life, another sort of reflective one.
With Arms Wide Open about having a kid. Will this change my life? Yeah. Will I be a better person?
I like this one better. Yeah, and then I mean for fillers, I mean there's nothing that I dismiss. I was actually a little underwhelmed by Mouthful of Cavities. Like I like the themes or the lyrics. I mean it's definitely it seems autobiographical, but I don't know. Maybe just musically or something. That's I guess a duet with a female vocalist, Jenna Krause. But yeah, that one, it didn't blow me away. I think that's the second to last cut.
Yeah, like for me, a filler Wilt. I guess it was written about bad breath.
Well, that makes sense. I thought it was going to be about like Wilt Chamberlain, and then I thought about something wilting. So, yeah. But
Car Seat God's Presence is a good one. It's creepy and terrible at the same time about Susan Smith, the woman who drowned her kids in 94. Yeah. But there's some Eastern musical influences, some bossa nova rhythms. Yeah. And if you listen closely to the second part, the God's Presence part, that was like a poem written by Shannon's great-great-grandmother or something. And he was reading it to one of the band members on an answering machine. And they took that tape and then put it on there.
I wonder what was going on there.
So yeah, there's a whole lot. I mean, they could all be killers, they could all be fillers. It just really depends on how open you are to this experience, and it is an experience. Production-wise, we've covered a lot of stuff throughout our discussion, but I do think that Andy Wallace did a really nice job of supporting the band's vision, and he had done that with many other artists, including Jeff Buckley, previously, but I really like the fact that he's the guy eating the soup on the cover of the album. But then what were your thoughts on the production?
Yeah, I mean, it feels, even though there's a lot going on, it still it feels like a live band, you know, kind of White Album-ish or something. It is kind of White Album-ish just because it is all over the place. But yeah, I mean, it's not glossy at all.
Yeah.
And it's probably not quite as polished as other rock albums at the time.
Its sound, though, is so, like, they captured New Orleans Like not only because they used New Orleans style horns and things, but there's definitely a woozy, boozy sort of Lost Weekend vibe to the whole thing that feels like Mardi Gras or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned this. I don't think I did. Daniel Lenoir was the owner of Kingsway Studio where they recorded the record. Just an interesting little production fact there. Replay for you, Don. You going back?
Yes. I like, I wish there was more, obviously, but I like that there's really only 2 proper Blind Melon albums with Shannon Hoon, right? And I like that the albums are so different from each other.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
I didn't like that at the time. Now I appreciate that more, and I appreciate what they were trying to do. And yeah, this is just part of my DNA. As much as it makes me sad and miss my, I had such excitement for the album when it was coming out. I'd been waiting, and I just flashed back to trying to understand this thing. Legacy wise, what do you think?
Well, I think the legacy now is sort of as like a hidden gem or a forgotten album, because it certainly didn't get its due at the time. And I don't think Blind Melon gets their due. They're not often cited as being one of the great bands of the 90s. And
it's the No Rain is all anyone knows.
Yeah. They're an interesting band. They made, 2 excellent albums.
Yep.
I feel like there's an alternate timeline where these guys did hit big. Because there was stuff going on that would have sort of worked with the marketing. You've got Blues Travelers and Dave Matthews. So you have like this hippie thing that they could have been latched onto or something. Yeah. Should have been on the Horde tour.
There you go. I went to one of those. So yeah, Soup. It's messy, unpredictable, not always easy to pin down, but it captures the spirit of 90s alt-rock in that it doesn't follow the rules. They leaned into experimentation and mood instead of formula, and if you're willing to sit with it, there's a lot to unpack. So check it out.
Give it a slurp.
That's perfect. I wish I had said that.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
So, on your way back from the dining hall, did you have time to dig anything else? You didn't call it the D hall, did you?
That sounds a euphemism for something. No, okay. I did not. I worked at the D hall.
Me too.
But no. So I stumbled upon this jazz record by Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, he is a bassist, obviously, but he also is an accomplished trumpet player. That's how he came up as a kid. So this does make sense. And this is his debut solo album after all these years. Wow. It's called Honora or Honora. I think it's Honora. Not sure. Released March 27th, 2026. It's kind of experimental jazz. Flea plays bass, trumpet, and does some vocals, backed by an ensemble of modern jazz players. We also have some guest vocals from Tom York on a track, Nick Cave on another, some inventive interpretations of songs by like Frank Ocean, George Clinton, and some standards. So why don't we jump in and listen to a little bit of A Plea by Flea. So somehow it's like jazz is always a little overwhelming, and I feel undereducated in it, but because it's Flea, and I hear that funky bass, I can it feels like an easier entry point.
Yeah, this is the doorway in.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I've listened to it a couple of times. It's pretty damn cool. Anyone that has any interest in Flea or jazz or both, check it out. It's a fun listen. Then, of course, I like to feature something that I'm digging from my vinyl collection, in this case. It's an album that I think was featured on one of, maybe in 2020, of one of my favorite albums of that year. It's The White Buffalo. It's called On the Widow's Walk. And The White Buffalo is the stage name of a guy named Jake Smith. Americana, roots rock, deep resonant voice, good storyteller, redemption, love, loss, frontier style narratives. The kind of stuff that I just inevitably fall in love with.
Yep.
Let's listen to a little bit of Problem Solution from On the Widow's Walk.
Tell me what's wrong with your heart. Was it cold and beaten from the start?
So it's a little more rock driven than some of his other albums, but it just is right. It just hits the spot, if you will, for me.
It. It's so much cooler listening to The White Buffalo than Jake Smith.
Oh, what you digging on there, Don? Maybe you need a name like the White Buffalo.
I'll think about that.
Okay.
So thanks to recommendations from Pandora.
Yeah, I've traveled back to 2006.
Yeah, I've still got my Pandora subscription. And you can put it now on like a newly released setting.
Gotcha.
And so this band called Widow's Speak, or I think it's Widow's Peak. I feel like I may have mentioned them before. They have an album coming out in June called Roses. It's singer Molly Hamilton and guitarist Robert Earl Thomas. And similar to a lot of things I've been digging, recent months, kind of dream poppy. I've seen the term slowcore. But anyway, here's a song called If You Change.
Oh, Mazzy Star with country twang.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Well, there you go.
I like the simple line, if you change, don't change too much.
There you go.
It's cute. Okay, and another one that came up on Pandora, Traitors, although spelled Traitrs, have an album called Possessor.
That's the Canadian spelling.
It's not, is it?
I just made that up.
You must have seen the note that they're from Toronto. I see. Okay. Yes, so they are kind of like a dark wave post-punk sounding group from Toronto. Sean Patrick Nolan and Sean Tucker. Here's a track called Selfish Hungers.
Oh, wow. Are you sure their names aren't Robert Smith Jr. and Robert Smith III?
Actually, vocally, it reminds me of Killing Joke. I forgot is it Jazz Coleman, I think, is the front man. There's a lot of Killing Joke style vocals on there. So if you've heard of them and like them, then check these guys out. All right, so what are you digging? Let us know. Join us on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Album Nerds.
It will be a discovery of extraordinary value.
Well, it's time on the show when I'm reminded of the words of comedian Dennis Miller. When I went to college... No, I can't do a Dennis Miller. When I went to college, I lived on campus, and the guys I hung out with made the characters in Revenge of the Nerds look like the Rat Pack in 1962.
Rat Pack and night.
Rat Pack. With that in mind, let's reveal how we will be celebrating on our next episode.
It's almost 420, bro.
Break out the buds, man.
So 420. Now, I've never been much of a fan of the main ingredient in 420, but I do enjoy albums. Mm-hmm. That are laid back and kind of give you that sort of sensation of being high, but on music, not on dope. So I look forward to that one. That should be fun. So we'll be celebrating music that is either good for accompanying you on 420 or giving you a buzz all by itself.
So what's your favorite 420 record? What else are you listening to? Email us at podcast@albumnerds.com or follow us on Instagram and other social media at Album Nerds. You can visit albumnerds.com to listen to all 333 episodes. And the best way to support this podcast is to share it. Please subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Album Nerds podcast. As always, next time we'll be celebrating Cowley's favorite day. You want to get high?
Album Nerd School's out for this week.
Oh.
I had to come up with something that was school related.
No, you did. All right, well, keep learning, people. See you next time.